Hey guys, today we're going to talk about floor joist spacings and how to create vignettes so you don't have to go back to span tables all the time. You can very quickly move on with the work you've done. This is mainly focused at lumber yards for takeoff or for builders for building before they build. So let's just crack straight into it. So floor joists are an important part of what we do. Now you can have a floor joist in 3D or in 2D. I'm just going to click the 3D and 2D mode here so that you can, I guess, demonstrate to the subcontractor what it is you're expecting. And there's nothing worse than allowing 14-foot joists and the carpenter on site cuts them up to 7. So we'll quickly talk about how to get a bill of quantities out and a cut and order list so we stop guys on site cutting the wrong members up into the wrong lengths. Guys, I've got I'm going to open a new SketchUp model here, inches. And guys, I'm doing this in Imperial today. While that's loading, I'll quickly just go back and maybe explain a little bit more. We're going to talk a little bit about vignettes. So a vignette is essentially a combination, or how we would go to put multiple things together in the aim of making it quicker to design by going create similar. And create similar is essentially when I'll explode this. We go right click and we create similar. So in a wall, right click, walls, create similar. We can do the same with joists, and that's how I'm going to show you guys how to put spans into joists. So if I want to draw a wall here, I'll just put it here. That just basically copied the wall. And the reason why this is important according to joist size is the step down for our cladding will go down lower according to the joist size. Right, you'll also notice that I have scenes up the top here, guys. These scenes are actually created by our scene creator, which is this tool here. And when you click it and you go to, instead of all, go down to framing, it will automatically turn everything into what we need to see for the structural side of what we're drawing. Right, let's go to that other SketchUp file that I opened, close, and I'll just see if I can minimize this screen down so we can see both. Right, and we have a default tray. Guys, if you don't have the default tray on your computer, it's very easy to find if you go to Windows default tray on a PC. And you'll also notice what I have open here by default. There's a lot of stuff that you can have open there, but I do believe that's the easiest things to do. So default tray, we can pin the default tray here. And you'll notice inside of my default tray, inside of yours as well, you'll have components. Inside of here we have a drop down which enables us to look at multiple components. Now I've created these components, so decks, floor joist, landscaping plans, and vignette wall. Let's just grab a vignette first, and we'll talk about that briefly. This vignette has 2x8 floor joists in there that actually span a certain distance. It has the wall that's stepped down so that our cladding covers the end of our floor joists and everything like that. So I can create similar. However, if we're just doing joist layouts for lumber takeoffs, we probably don't need a vignette. We can simply just go to floor joists. I'm going to show you how to create these guys. And I can bring in, just so you can see when I hover over there, it gives me the name. So these are my truss floor joists. If I grab them, it's telling me the span of the joist, and it's outlining, it's putting a girder, or in Australia we call that a bearer, so that now I can see the span of these joists, which makes it very simple when I bring in a plan. Let's have a look, plan. So that now I can actually see what floor joist size will work for this particular model, right? And I can tell by the girder. Now I'm going to bring in some solid timber joists here as well. So I'm going to move this joist down to here, so I can just see whether this is going to be ideal. If it's not, okay. So my girder spacing is probably that's overkill. I think that we're going too big there, and for value engineering, it makes sense to choose the right joist. So what I'm going to do is I'm going to go back and I'm going to go to my components again, drop down, components, floor joists, and I'm going to grab a whole heap of different solid timber joists here and see if I can find the right span. So you can see I've got 2x6s span 9'11", 2x8 spanning 13'1", and 2x10s was 16'1". Now I can simply read the dimensions on the plan, but even easier, provided that plan is to scale, I can just basically bring these over to here and say, okay, well, which one works best? So the 2x10 works, it's overspan from that nib wall there. 2 by 8 is too short, therefore it'll be a 2 by 10. So I'm just going to go here and explode this and get rid of anything that I don't require. And I'm going to show you how to just quickly add your joists. Delete, get rid of that. Get rid of anything I don't require. Now on a floor plan, this is just a screenshot that I quickly traced over just to put some dimensions on it. I'm going to use my rectangle tool and I'm going to go rectangle from here all the way across to here because I think my floor joist will go there, and you can see that my garage is set down there, so I'm going to go to here, and therefore my floor joist will go on that dotted section. So I can simply go to my floor joist and go right click, floor joist, create similar joist, which is bringing me up into the joist tool straight away. You'll notice that I don't have the floor included because we're talking about joists. We can put the floor on. I don't need a ceiling, so they're unticked and so on. I don't need joist hangers. I don't need blocks or anything in this particular thing, although you can use those. And you can find tutorials at the top here, guys, for these tools. But you'll notice the most important thing here is the type of floor joist I'm going to use and the spacing of the floor joist and the size of the floor joist. And because I clicked create similar, it just took all the attributes out of this floor joist and it said, okay, well, we want to create a 2 by 6 with a 3 by 10 girder or bearer underneath that. Now, more importantly, it's actually asking us, I'm down to my girder here. I'm going to put in my girder size, 3 by 6. It's asking me what the spacings are of the girder. And I've got it to start with none and end with none. Basically, that means that I'm not going to have a girder at each end. I'm going to sit them on a wall. But the girder is actually showing me the span visually, so I don't have to get into crunching numbers while I'm busy. And the maximum span is 192 inches, which is 16 foot 1. I can change these if I wanted to, and if I use a smaller joist size, you would notice that the spacing is also reduced, and therefore I know that my joists aren't going to be bouncy when I do the job. Right, so I can select the face here now and I can go submit. One thing to note is that I don't have the girders evenly spaced. I'm going to talk about that a bit more in a second. So I'm going to go submit and I'm going to go and put in my joist direction, which is this way. And you'll notice that it's now showing me where that girder location is. Now, guys, I don't have to have a girder. It's just for me to see visually that it's going to do. I can turn that off later. Because most likely we're going to have a nib wall underneath here with a top plate on it, and that's how we would do it. The same would happen for here with these floor joists. I could choose the same size, or I could reduce the size to a 2 by 6 or something if I chose. However, sometimes the messing around with building up your wall plates to suit the saving you get in 2 inches of floor joist isn't enough. It's not feasible, so I'm going to stick with 2 by 10s here. And I'm just going to quickly get rid of this little section here because that's lower. And I can go submit and I can put my floor joist in. Alright, so how did I create these vignettes and how did I get them into here? Well, that's a good question. Let's see if we can kick this puppy home very quickly. We go to Google and essentially, while that's loading, I'll pause it. We type in what it is we're looking for. So let's say 2 by 10 floor joist span, which we already have, but anyway. And Google's going to come up with span tables and a whole heap of different things here. It's very easy to get to them. Also, top search result. Sorry, Google's now listening. Also, with you could use these are truss joists by trim joist, so I could use that as well. And essentially, all I'm looking for, and see if we can just zoom in a touch here. This is a 14-inch joist here, and 16 on center is the spacing of the joist. And I like to use 60 pounds per square foot of live load. Basically what that means is that through the use cycle of the building, there'll be a maximum of 60 pounds per square foot of a live load. A dead load is usually calculated into a floor joist, and a dead load is actually the weight of the floor and possibly the ceiling underneath or anything that goes with it, like connectors and so on. So we're looking at live load. I'm going to go 60 per square foot. Therefore, I can get 26 inches out of a truss joist here. So let's go back to over here and we'll choose a truss joist instead. So we're going to go back, instead of using solid timber, we're going to use floor trusses, and 16 on center was the spacing we looked at. And I think I said, let's double check what I was looking at, 14-inch joists, 14-inch, and my maximum spacing down and my girder spacing was 26 feet. So let's go and type in 26 feet and go submit. Now what I'm going to do is draw just a joist out in the middle of nowhere here, and I'm going to come back this way. Right, and you'll notice that it's spaced that girder for me. Let's move this over to here, and I'm going to dimension it. I'll close that for a second. Dimension, it's in the large tool set, guys. I've created a keyboard shortcut, which is D. Let's see if I can get this to click on there. Come on. I'm going to use the line tool. I don't know why that didn't grab it. Something with SketchUp 24. There. And dimension that line. Okay. I've got 26 feet. Now, I kind of want to write a little bit more. You'll notice over here I've got 2x10 max span 16 foot 1. Therefore, on this particular case here, I'm going to double click on my dimension line, and I'm going to write 14-inch truss joist. The span is 26 feet. I'm actually going to copy that as well. Control A and Control C allows me to copy the text. Now, if I select both the joist and the text, I can go right click and I can make it into a component. G is a keyboard shortcut. And if I go Control V, I've just basically 14-inch truss joist span 26 feet. Create. So I've created that. It's gone into my components, but I don't have it for next time. How do we save it for next time? I'm going to go right click and I'm going to go Save As. And you'll notice that SketchUp automatically takes you to a component folder location. And usually it'll be at SketchUp 24 SketchUp, or depending on the version of SketchUp you're using. And then you've got components. And you'll notice I've actually created folders in here. I could create a new folder now, and I can call it Training Joist. Right? And poorly spelled, you get the idea. And then I can go Save. And then the next time I open up SketchUp, I will actually have in here, you can see that poorly spelled, Training Joist, and therefore I now have a vignette that I can use anytime I open up SketchUp. Now that's a big time saver. Sure, it's going to take you a little bit of time to go through and figure out all the spans of the major sizes you use, but there's no need to do every span or every size. It's just what you guys use, and then you would put them into a vignette. So what I'm going to do over here is I'm going to go right click. I'm going to explode this other vignette because I've already got it saved. I can go right click Walls and create similar wall. Because the wall already has a set down for my eaves and everything in. I'll see if I can quickly explain that. The cladding is already set down here, so you can see that it's set down here, and it's set down for my for an 8-inch joist here, I believe. Yep, it's an 8-inch joist. However, I need to set it down for a 14-inch joist, so it's going to come down 16 inches. So I'll move this up here so you can see it. I'm going to go down to my cladding overrides here, and I'm going to write 16 inches in my step down. If I hover over the orange here, it's telling me what I'm doing, and go submit. Therefore, I can now go and create my wall there so that I have a cladding step down lower than my floor joist. And I could go about, I copy and paste the rest of this information, or I could create similar, and I could create a typical vignette, including a roof and everything, so that now I can just go and actually bring in a vignette and start my job with that is correct for joist spacing, is correct for everything else, and that's going to save you a shipload of time, guys. So creating vignettes is a really good thing. There's another vignette. If you Google PlusSpec vignettes on YouTube, you'll see how I go about creating a home based on vignettes, and how I go about a bit of trial and error there. Let's get rid of this. And essentially, now I've got something that I can utilize to build. Now you might have 8 foot, 9 foot, 10 foot ceilings. You can go and create vignettes for all of those. But the key is to do what you typically do. If you're a builder, even though we might build custom homes, we still use similar construction methodology. More importantly, we can show these things to our subcontractors so that they're not cutting up the wrong size floor joist for the wrong type of thing. So if I actually went to takeoff here, and you'll notice when you open your takeoff, you're going to see a dialog that comes up like this. And if you scroll down, you've got framing advanced. If I go generate and update report and I go to my framing, I have my floor trusses here. And if I go inside of there, I can actually see the floor trusses that I put in there, the sizes. They've got 14 by 4 by 2, and I've got 14 of them at 32 feet, and therefore you can start to organize these things. However, if I go back and I go to advanced framing, all of my advanced framing solid timber joists are in here, and you can see I've got 2 by 10s, 3 by 10s, and so on as perimeter joists. It's giving me the name and the output of those. If you go export takeoff and scroll down to export order and cut list, and I'm just going to go save, it's in documents. Okay, it should open it up for me. There it is. Now what this is actually doing is telling us the cut length of the joist, but at the same time it's telling us from what length it had been ordered from. Right, so I'll see if I can scroll in and make this a little bit bigger for you. There we go. Okay, right, so here's all of my sizes, the floor joist numbers, whether it's a perimeter joist. This one's going to be 20, I guess it's 24, 1/16, and it's cut out of 22 foot. And therefore, if you give this to the subcontractor, you can actually copy and paste this into the SketchUp model if you want to. But if you give this to the subcontractor, they know what you have allowed to cut out of each joist. And that is probably the main issue that I have when I'm actually detailing a job on site. And it allows me to be more comfortable that the subcontractor is not going to mess it up and potentially say, oh, they didn't show up, and throw them in his truck and take them home. It also allows me to be confident that what I've drawn virtually is what's going to be built on site, and I think that's the key. And now if you're running a lumber yard or you're doing estimating for subcontractors, this is the key to be able to help them to do it. And guys, I'm not going to get into full models at the moment, but you can see here very clearly that we have this. And if I use that scene tool that we spoke about earlier, and I go to framing and go submit, it's going to create scenes for me straight at the top. And as you can see, if I went to joist only there, I now have my floor joist. If I wanted to change the color of the floor joist, I could do it two ways. I could go to my materials and I can select a material, and that way we can specify joist size by color. I should pin that. You can see there I've got a 14.2. I can go edit and I can change them to green. Right? And then when I scroll out, I can clearly define different floor joist sizes according to color. Right? You can see over here I've got 2 by 10s. There is one other way, guys, I'm going to quickly show you. It is a good way to create templates on, and that is color by tag here. Right? What happened was that anything that was untagged is now black, which means I can either do one or two things. I can change the color of that tag to opaque. And then if I went to my flooring, you'll notice it's pretty organized. My floor joist, which are solid, I can change them to red. Here, go okay. However, I've got truss joists. You notice down here they're white. If I went floor trusses and I want to change them to blue, okay. Now I can clearly define, let's go to my 2D mode here, what the different colors are of particular items, right? That's color by tag, guys. Because when you draw anything with PlusDesignBuild or Plus Architect, it is automatically tagged and therefore organized. It enables us to do more in less time and essentially get the job right, and that's the key. So guys, don't forget, create all of your floor joists into spans according to the girder spacing, save those inside of your components, and then you can also back that folder up too, guys. Always a good idea, in case and you can share them with your friends as well. Guys, if you want anything that I've created today, reach out on the forum or put a comment in below. I'll do my best to put in some links as well, so it makes it easy for you guys to do exactly what I've just done. Hope it helps. And if you like the video, push like. If you dislike the video, push dislike. But make sure you tell us why. Cheers.